Hey, it's Gracie Terzian. This is ear training part 3. Today we're going to be listening to major chords and augmented chords and seeing if we can hear the difference between them. Now, a major triad, remember a triad is just a chord with 3 notes in it, is made up of the root, third, and fifth note in a major scale. For instance, the first note in a C major scale is C, right? The second note is D. The third note is E. So that's the third. So the root is the C, the third is E. And then the fifth note in the scale is G. See? C, D, E, F, G. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. So C to G. G is the fifth note in a C major scale. So C, E, and G. Whenever you play those 3 notes together, C, E, and G, in any order or on any instrument, you are playing a C major chord or a C major triad, okay? So if we were to then sharpen the fifth, which means the fifth note in the scale, which is G in this example, and if we sharpen it or raise it by a half step, G moves to the note G sharp, okay? So now we have C, E, and G sharp. So that would be our C augmented chord or our C augmented triad, okay? So the only difference between a major chord and an augmented chord is that fifth degree in the scale, the C, D, E, F, G, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, G, that note G, which is the fifth, has been raised by a half step and it has been sharpened, okay? So that's why a C major chord is C, E, and G, and a C augmented chord is C, E, G sharp. Got it? Now an augmented chord has a lot of tension in it. It sounds very unresolved, and if you listen to a major chord, it sounds much more stable, right? Major chord versus the augmented chord, we have a lot more tension, right? So hopefully listening to these two won't be too difficult. This is actually going to be easier than the 2 other ear training videos I made before this. I think it's easier to hear the difference between a major and an augmented chord. Later on, though, it is going to get more complicated in my other videos, but hopefully this one isn't too bad. So, but if you still get some wrong, don't feel bad about it. I'm just saying this one is a little bit easier, I think, than those others. So let's have fun and get started. First, I'm going to play for you a major triad in root position. So this is what a major triad in root position sounds like. And since it's in root position, the root note is the lowest note. So we have the root, and then I'm playing it with the third next, and then the fifth on top. So it's root, third, fifth, okay? Now an augmented triad in root position sounds like this. Okay, so since this is also in root position, we start with the root, and then I'm playing the third, and then we have a sharpened fifth, or a raised fifth, like that. So you can hear the difference between the major triad and the augmented triad is that last note, right, which is the fifth, because it's being moved up a half step. So you can see my hand here on the fretboard too. I'm playing root, third, fifth for a major triad, and then that fifth is getting moved up a half step for the augmented triad. So major and then augmented. Now I'm going to play some chords on the ukulele, and they're all going to be either major chords or augmented chords in root position, and you're going to guess which one it is, okay? So we're just going to listen. You can close your eyes, relax, and listen. Is that a major or augmented chord? That is major. What about this? Major. What about this one? Major as well. What about this one? Major or augmented? That is augmented. If it were major, it would sound like this. But it's augmented, so it sounds like that. Okay, what about this one? That is a major chord. What about this one? Augmented. What about this one? Augmented. Right? What about this one? augmented. What about this one? Augmented. What about this one? Major. Not too hard, right? Okay, now we're going to listen to major and augmented triads in first inversion. So now instead of having the root note be the lowest note in the chord, the third is going to be the lowest note in the chord. So here's what a major triad in first inversion sounds like. And so I'm playing the third, then the fifth, and then the root on top, okay? So third, fifth, root. And the reason why it's in first inversion is because that third is the lowest note in the chord. Inversions always have to do with whatever the lowest note in the chord is, okay? If the root note is the lowest note in the chord, meaning lowest in pitch, if the root note is the lowest note in the chord, then it is in root position. If the third is the lowest note in the chord, then it's in first inversion. And then if the fifth is the lowest note in the chord, then it's in second inversion, okay? Now an augmented triad in first inversion sounds like this. So I'm playing the third on the bottom, then the fifth, the sharpened fifth, and then the root. So you can hear the difference between major and augmented. It's that middle note, right? The second note you're hearing, that one for major, and then that's the note that's changing. And if you can look on my hand, see third, fifth, right? This string, I'm playing the fifth, and then the root on top, and then I'm moving that note that was on the third fret up to the fourth fret, so moving it up a half step, third, sharpened fifth, root. So from there to there, for major to augmented. Now I'm going to play some major and augmented triads, and they're all going to be in first inversion, and we're just going to listen and guess which one it is by listening, okay? This is the first one. Major or augmented? That is a major triad, right? What about this one? Major or augmented? It's augmented. If it were major, it would sound like this. But it's augmented, so it sounds like this. Okay, what about this one? Augmented, right? If it were major, it would sound like this. But it's augmented, so it sounds like this. Okay, what about this one? Major or augmented? That is major. What about this one? Augmented. What about this one? That is major. Okay, now we're going to listen to major and augmented triads in second inversion. So now this means that the fifth is the lowest note in the chord. So here's a major triad. We have fifth, root, and then third. And then an augmented triad, that fifth, which is the lowest note, gets moved up a half step, so it's a sharpened fifth, right? And then we have sharpened fifth, root, third. So major, augmented. Hear the difference? Okay, so you can even see on my ukulele, this is that fifth for major, and then you can see it moving up a half step to play the augmented shape. So major and then augmented. Got it? So now we're going to listen to some major and augmented triads in second inversion and see if we can tell them apart. Ready? Here we go. Is that major or augmented? That is a major triad, right? What about this one? That is augmented. Okay, what about this one? Is that major or augmented? That is augmented, right? What about this one? That is major. What about this one? Major again. What about this one? That is augmented. What about this one? augmented. What about this one? Major or augmented? Major. What about this one? That is a augmented chord. So now we're going to listen to major and augmented chords, but they're going to be in all three of the different positions: root position, first inversion, or a second inversion, okay? So it can be any of those options. So let's try it out. Major or augmented? Major. What about this one? Major or augmented? Major. What about this one? Major. What about this one? That is a major chord. What about this one? Major. What about this one? That is augmented. What about this one? That is augmented. What about this one? Major. What about this one? Major. What about this one? That is augmented. What about this one? That is major. What about this one? That is augmented. What about this one? Major. Okay, and last but not least, what is this one? That is augmented. Great work, guys. So hopefully this wasn't too challenging. Stay tuned for more ear training videos like this one. They're actually going to get more difficult as we keep going. We're going to do all kinds of stuff with ear training. But hopefully this video wasn't too hard. It's totally cool, as I said, if you get some wrong. Keep working on it. And if you want to see more content like this and you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. I post one video a week and I would love to have you here. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, say hey, share it with a friend. All those things really help me out a lot. Also, if you want to support my channel and get access to a bunch of music theory PDFs, I have a Patreon, which you can check out in the description below. That is it. Thank you guys again so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or night, and I will see you next week.